model of it really isn't grand opera or even large-scale theater, but it's really cinema. And I think that's, when you see it, this combination, it's closer to that than anything except everything's live.
You know, many of us sort of who grew up with movies and television and stuff and didn't grow up going to a lot of theater, I find that in order to be interested in the theater, I have to be perhaps overstimulated or stimulated more than a viewer who perhaps grew up with more theater, which means that all these elements need to be exploited, dance or music or whatever. And this is an opportunity where the music plays an extremely prominent role and an equal role to the text. And also you have these visuals, the likes of which I've never seen before on stage.
I wanted to tell her that I was not born and raised to work in a copy shop, that I once had an important job. Not that it's so easy to believe at this point, but I have pictures. They tell me that I was once a lawyer. I hope I defended the innocent against the guilty, but chances are, if we're to be honest, that probably wasn't the case.
This is really wonderful. I couldn't even imagine what this was really going to look like until I got into the theater. So yeah, it's wonderful. I see things that I've never seen before.
But then to top it all off, to put the icing on the worst date in history, my building started to disappear.
I'm John Howell, arts editor for Elle magazine and performing arts critic for Art Forum. I've been privileged to see preview performances of 1,000 Airplanes on the Roof, a science fiction music drama realized by composer Phillip Glass, playwright David Henry Hwang, and set designer Jerry Serlin. During the next half hour, we'll hear from these three principals who created this unique collaboration. We'll look at some footage of the performance itself, and we'll talk with the producer, Jed Wheeler, whose company, IPA International Production Associates, is bringing 1,000 Airplanes on the Roof to stages around the world. But first, a few words to set the stage for this singular theatrical experience. I'm speaking with Jed Wheeler, co-producer of 1,000 Airplanes on the Roof. 1,000 Airplanes on the Roof will appear in 35 cities in the United States before it comes to New York. Isn't this unusual?
Yes, John. It is most unusual for an avant-garde work of this kind to be booked on a comprehensive national tour before it has been created and before it reaches New York City, which is widely regarded as the center of contemporary performance in America. New York City may be perceived as the national capital of contemporary performance. However, the appetite for contemporary work has changed dramatically. It used to be that a work such as 1,000 Airplanes on the Roof needed to be premiered in New York City before it was booked elsewhere in the country. All that has changed. For instance, the presenting organizations on this tour are amazingly diverse. They include such cities as Albuquerque, New Mexico, Corpus Christi, Marshall, Texas. These are not places that conventional wisdom would say are part of a Phillip Glass tour. This must tell us something about how taste is changing in America. Smaller communities are attempting to diversify their audiences. Time magazine's Mike Walsh said about 1,000 Airplanes on the Roof, as directed by Glass, the piece emerges as a strong statement in which the whole is, for once, equal to the sum of its formidable parts. And for those who care about contemporary music theater, that is good news. 1,000 Airplanes on the Roof is an event. Jerome Serlin's vision transforms a deceptively simple raked stage into a three-dimensional wonderment.
My body was glowing, my skin red like a briquette. I stared at my face, and a stranger stared back. A stranger, smiling.
1,000 Airplanes on the Roof is a multidisciplinary work, which gives the presenter enormous opportunities in bringing a new audience to the Performing Arts Center that he or she operates. Such an event draws its audience from the worlds of rock, dance, the world of theater, as well as visual arts. It's a great opportunity to create a big event.
I've wandered from town to town, Boston, Detroit, Seattle, L.A., always seeking the brighter lights, a city that doesn't go dark at night. Well, what could fit the bill better than New York?
1,000 Airplanes on the Roof, or 1,000 Airplanes as it's known for short, begins as a dramatic monologue, a portrait of an individual who has an amazing experience. The story of this every man, or in some cases every woman, as the production is double cast with a man and a woman, is not told as a linear narrative. Instead, it's presented more as a portrait of a state of mind. 1,000 Airplanes is also unique in the way it was created, by a process of collaboration that is beginning to shape the significant theater of our time. The principals come to the production with substantial credits. Composer Phillip Glass, perhaps best known for his epic opera Einstein on the Beach, a collaboration with director Robert Wilson. The Metropolitan Opera recently commissioned Glass to create a work specifically for the Met to be presented in 1992. Designer Jerry Serlin has created sets for Wagner's Ring Cycle and Madonna's Who's That Girl tour. Playwright David Henry Hwang won a 1988 Tony Award for Best Play for his work M. Butterfly.
Well, I think the thing that's most interesting about this is it's very much a three-way collaboration between myself, Philip, and Jerry. And I'd say we met over the course of 6 months to kind of develop the ideas that would be in the text. And we even came up with, I think, lists of things that Jerry and Philip wanted in the text, which I then tried to incorporate. So, which meant that it was the text, well, I'm the one who went to a corner and wrote it. It's very much the product, I think, of the fused sensibilities.
I think what we're describing here is a real collaboration.
Actually, many of the ideas came about in conversation with David and Philip, some of the earliest conversations about how we were going to develop this piece, what it was going to be about. I mean, it started off with an idea of War of the Worlds, in which I said early on that, well, even if we did War of the Worlds, it really wouldn't be War of the Worlds. It would. I'd like to create a new story, a new set of ideas for this, and the whole project evolved into essentially creating a new piece.
For example, we decided that there would be one actor. That would be my ensemble. That it would be a piece of about 90 minutes. That it would be without an intermission. We decided all these things. So these were decisions that could be taken before anything was actually done in terms of the work.
So it set up a sort of framework of boundaries for you each to work in.
That's right. Well, it was a framework that we were all going to work in.
You've collaborated with a lot of major avant-garde directors, designers, writers. How was this collaboration different? How did it work?
Well, they're all a little different because there's some collaborations where you are really contributing to someone else's piece. For example, with Civil Wars of Bob Wilson, Bob had a big idea of an opera, and a lot of different people did parts of it. But it was always Bob Wilson's Civil Wars. There's another kind of collaboration where people work in a very equal way, as with Einstein on the Beach. We did that together. This was a different kind. This is the kind where you have a group of people really working together, but starting from one idea that someone had. And I had the idea of doing this piece. And I thought of David as being the right writer to work with and Jerry being the right designer. And none of us had worked together before.
And I suppose also this making the equivalent of all the elements of a performance is probably the continuing revolution in performing arts that dates from early in the century.
Well, this is very much an evolving form, the collaborative form. If we can even call it a form as such, because, in fact, I mean, operas of the 19th century were the creation of one person. Or theater works. Jerry would have an idea and he'd hire a librettist, but he'd never, they were not co-authors. We entered the work. I asked them to work with me, but after that moment we were co-authors. There's no doubt about that. At a later point, I assumed the role of director, and that had to do with staging and balancing and bringing the work to performance. But as authors, we shared that. That was a role we shared together. This is what is unique about the theater of our time.
A sound I fight to forget. Layers upon layers of mesh. Each layer a screen holding a memory. Some memories easier to touch. These put up front, on display. Behind them, others of shame and violation and pain. These left in obscure places far back as possible, yet their presence leads through, so that the viewer casually perusing the collection is disturbed. A chill runs through his body. For even as he gazes at the most ordinary of memories, he becomes aware of other images he is not supposed to see.
Now, was it a choice very early on to have only one character, which meant basically for you writing a monologue?
Right. I think that was very clear from the beginning that was going to be the case. One of the things is, in my opinion, each of us has tried to keep our element open. And what I mean by that is, I think that there's not a density to each separate element, such that the three would be able to interact together rather than fighting against each other. You know, otherwise there would be no focus, and you'd be constantly confused. And so I think, for me, the minimalist approach to the text was to really have one actor do it, and therefore not create any extra distractions that would then conflict with the music and the visuals.
I think working with Phillip has been terrific because he's very open and very easy to work with. Essentially, he looks at the work and he says, "Well, if that's the direction you're going in, that's terrific." I mean, the primary concern is one of I think openness and allowing each of the collaborators to really create what they create best.
We were all referencing each other's work the whole time. What that means is, I think, is that you get a work of much more impact than you would get if, for example, I'd done a piece in which we underscored it. Underscoring means that you write the music as background. Mm-hmm. Or whether you did designs that were simply backdrops, or you did text that was kind of just spoken over. Each of the elements shares a foreground.
It was 7:45 a.m. I brought my hand down on the clock. And time leaves me. I step temporarily outside its domain. When my hand comes off the clock, it's 7:15. 7 in the sun. It's already starting to set. Did I go to work? Oh, no, I'm still in my pajamas. I have to call my boss. I pick up the phone.
This show is billed as a science fiction music drama. Is this a latent interest of yours, or a new interest, or how do you relate this title of a science fiction drama?
I don't really think about the title of a science fiction that much. I've thought about it. After I wrote it, I sort of went back and thought, well, how does this relate to my previous work? And I think that the element that it shares has to do with a concern for identity and a concern for finding out, digging up memories from one's past. And the lead character or the only character actually in 1,000 Airplanes is somebody who cannot reconcile himself with the truth of his past and wants instead to adopt a more kind of conventional way of looking at the world, fitting into the world, which creates certain psychic pressures in himself.
We should maybe de-emphasize the fiction component of science fiction. I think there's a common preconception that means complete fantasy, mythology, right, of going to a planet where everyone looks strange.
I am sort of talking about what's essentially an internal search, although it may have sort of scientific trappings or outer space elements to it. Because to me, all the real interesting human dilemmas are basically internal searches, and that to me seems the root of any good drama, whether you're writing about outer space people or transvestites. What I wanted was to start out with a character who seemed to be in a state of disturbance, but it is clear neither to him nor to us exactly what the nature of that disturbance is. Rather than going in from the beginning and saying this is a story about UFOs and about visitors from other worlds, I thought it was more interesting to approach it strictly from the human point of view. And then as he discovers what his problem is, we discover what his actual problem is. And so it becomes a voyage of discovery for all of us, going into his past and going into his memories and being able to confront those.
It's not really science, it's allegory. No, the 1,000 Airplanes, it's not really fiction, it's pretends to be documentary in many ways. So one of them is in science and one of them is in fiction, so they're neither really. The thing about 1,000 Airplanes, now this is an interesting point about this, because there are several ways to look at it. I think you have to remember that there are hundreds of people who think they have these experiences. Now, you may not think they have them, but they do. If you said to some one of these people, you know, you didn't really have this experience, it's just in your imagination, you'd have a hard time convincing them of that. One of the things about the piece that's rather touching is that, in fact, it's about someone who has an experience that no one will believe.
Right. No, I think one of the things that I found quite moving when reading all the UFO literature, doing my research for this project, and therefore one of the things which became kind of the human hook, which allowed me to get into the text, is the idea that these people who have had the abduction experiences, it's very, whatever we may say about it, it's very real for them. And these are people who, many of whom have been profiled psychologically and seem to be otherwise, you know, perfectly normal. So then they get into this dilemma, which, as the text says, is rather like that of a rape victim, in the sense that if they speak about it, they bring shame upon themselves, and they feel that somehow they've been sullied or dirtied by this experience. And therefore, they're in this terrible dilemma of either admitting the truth and therefore feeling ostracized by the world, or suppressing the truth and therefore having all sorts of kind of psychological damage.
We sometimes used to call M, that's the character, the man with the problem. He has two problems. Number one, he got picked up by a spaceship, and number two, no one will believe him. And, you know, this is good old National Enquirer stuff, right? You know. And
I was going to say, this is probably the most single biggest cultural theme of the last decade. This music is played by your ensemble, which is a group that's been together now for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And they seem able to both, as a group, reproduce your kind of music and work with live theater, which I wouldn't think a lot of groups could.
We've had a lot of experiences as an ensemble together. First of all, with Einstein on the Beach, with Listen to Charles and Dance, with the photographer, which was produced at Bain with Joe Nicolaitis directing. So it had they've been on the road with theater. They've had 3 of those experiences. There may be others, John. Oh yes, Kind of Scott's Alive, very important one.
Playing with a film.
Playing with a film. In fact, that's another hybrid. I'm a specialist on hybrids.
Hyphenated
Hyphenated
forms.
art forms, right. But Kaniscassi Live was the film Kaniscassi with the live ensemble. There we had to follow the mechanical requirements of the film.
You're associated probably now in the public mind with very large-scale, almost epic kind of works that last several hours and have cast of many people, and this is almost a sort of chamber piece with one actor and a small...
The scale of it is modeled very much, and many other things, in fact, on a cinematic model, on the idea of a movie. In fact, the idea of taking a photographic decor or designs that are really photographs and that are changing and moving and putting a live actor in the photographs is really a cinematic idea.
I think because of the smaller scale compared to your other works of this piece, I was more aware of your ensemble functioning as a sort of chamber group where the space is smaller.
Well, it's also written that way, John. The other, in fact, as Martin and other people have noticed, it's written more like an interactive chamber piece. There are more solo sections in it. You'll see we're using some new instruments like what's called a wind synthesizer. But if you listen to the piece, it's not written in such a monolithic way, let's say that even Einstein was written.
Well, that's more of a symphonic model.
This is much more of it breaks down into smaller parts in a way.
This imagery you're using, some of it appears to be, to a layperson, it's not clear how it's made. Do you use a lot of special lenses? Do you do your own darkroom work? Do you and you create these slides are created in one slide? Are they overlays with mats?
They're all created in the studio. They're all created with with a lot of camera work. Original slides are then processed in certain ways. I'll shoot things, I'll overlay elements, I'll mat out certain elements and create a new combination of parts, sort of giving me a new totality for this this one image. Some images just have been reappearing in my work for 20 years.
Like what images?
Well, there's certain machine images that for some reason I've always had a fascination with contemporary machinery, motor parts and things like that. And
would this kind of set design even been possible, say, 10 years ago? Did equipment exist to do it, or is it not so much a matter of equipment?
Well, it has nothing really to do with equipment. It has to do with ideas and how to use, let's say, equipment that's available. I mean, we've had slide projectors around for, 30, 40, 50 years, 60 years. I mean, we've been dealing with transparencies, and photography has been with us for, well over 100 years.
Do you get a lot of people asking you how you do what you do?
I do, but that's always a question that is almost impossible to answer because it's a real mixed process. I mean, I spend months just alone in my studio, just sort of conjuring and cutting and modeling and making slides. I mean, it's often a very kind of crazy, kind of manic state where I'm, pulling from this. I mean, it gets very wild, and I put something together and say, oh, that doesn't work, and then crumple it up and sort of go on again, and then immediately say, but wait a second, that might work with certain images, and I go to this image bank that I have, and I start pulling things out of that, and try something out, and squint my eye, and it's just about getting there. But if I then reprocess this one image and blew it up, that would work. So I'd run into the dark room and I'd set out some chemicals and do a print of it, sort of blow up this one section and then rephotograph that and then put that in and say, oh, wow, this is really starting to work. It's starting to become something.
And would you say a kind of magic is at least in 1,000 Airplanes, is certainly a goal of a great deal of the imagery interacting with the actor and the...
Oh, definitely, yeah. To encase him in this, this visiting orb or space vehicle. That was certainly a major concern. We all decided that we wanted to have the actual contact, not just the thinking about it, not just the ruminating and the paranoia, but there should be a point in the story in which it really happens.
I remember once at work, I allowed my hand to move a pen across the page without my knowledge. Before I knew it, what my hand had done, it had sketched a machine like a blueprint, doodled to precision over 5 dimensions. I couldn't begin to understand what my hand had drawn. I only knew that looking at it, my breathing stopped. Very quickly, I tore up the paper and burned the bits. The smoke and ashes filled my lungs, making me cough. Now my eyes see what my hand had remembered. The architecture of the visitors is built to precise specification over 5 dimensions.
I should ask you what I asked one of your collaborators. Do you think this piece improves your chances of being contacted, having this kind of experience?
Yeah, I occasionally think that I'll be contacted by aliens for copyright violation, but other than that, I don't. I think that the aliens probably don't really care what we're doing to the extent they exist, and if we write about them, it doesn't seem to bother them that much.
Or you might hear a corrective editorial voice on your next alien text. Right. No, it's like this.
You got that all wrong.
Among the authors, Jerry has actually seen, he and his brother saw a spaceship one years and years ago.
When I was a kid, I saw one, fly overhead, and it was sort of an interesting event. But I didn't, none of us really knew what they looked like, and I wanted to keep it a kind of a very ephemeral experience, that it's something that changes.
And he told me recently, he said, he still calls his brother up now and then to ask him if he really saw it. Jerry saw it and doesn't believe it. Now, David has never had any experience of that kind and has no idea whether to believe it or not. One of the problems is the people that have these experiences hardly believe them at all. They're the people who are the most confused.
Who raise the most questions.
Who raise the most questions about it. So the thing about, there are a number of things about it in a way. Is it really about that? In a certain way. And some say, well, maybe it's about communication. But in another way, I think, for me, what it's really about, it's about memory.
The room grows bigger as they enter. Now, all headed toward me. I know what I'm supposed to do. They are surrounding me. They're touching me.
1,000 Airplanes on the Roof is unlike any other experience anyone has ever had. There are moments in this production that will remain with audience members for the rest of their lives. 1,000 Airplanes on the Roof is a tribute to both its creators and the presenters who have booked it. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to bring this show to your theater.
The voice of my conscience, he says, like this, we know you, and you know us. But why do you travel this distance? And why are you interested in me? I breathe again, and looking into his eyes, I see the globe grow larger until it covers the entire length of my body. I step inside. I curl myself into a little ball. It closes around me, then shoots off into space, across all 5 dimensions.